Hello. So today I want to talk to you about something called attachment theory or adult attachment theory and how that relates to you and your relationships. For me, learning about attachment types and how that impacts your relationships and how you are as a person was the most helpful thing I have ever learned about for me to have a relationship that actually lasted or didn't drive me insane, how to pick a prospective partner that I was going to have a happier relationship with, and how not to be a neurotic mess, basically, well, in my case. So attachment theory all kind of started with, they got really into it when it came to parenting and raising secure, happy, healthy babies and children. And, there's 4 different types of attachment types. And 50% of the population is what they call a secure attachment type. They tend to have loving, caring homes with stable caregivers, and they are not avoidant of relationships, and they have low anxiety when they're in relationships. So they don't get triggered off, or they can with circumstances, but they tend to not create a lot of drama in relationships. And if their partner gets upset or has issues, they're very reassuring and there for them. And ideally, that's the type you want to be, and that's the type of person you want to have a relationship with. So then there's what they call the anxious preoccupied type, and that's what I found out I was. And an anxious preoccupied type tends to have high anxiety when it comes to relationships, but they're not avoidant of them. So they like to get into relationships, but once they do, they can get very insecure. They need a lot of reassurance. They tend to only be as happy as the relationship they're in is. They are the ones who Facebook and Google stalk their partners, and they also think they constantly have a sixth sense about what's going on. So they'll read into a lot of things and kind of come to conclusions that aren't necessarily true. And they need a lot of reassurance in a relationship. So if they get triggered off and they feel highly anxious, if they have a partner that doesn't reassure them, they get very, very triggered. And they tend to want to attach to the person or get that reassurance they need from their partner so they can calm down. And if they don't get that, they tend to stay in this very highly anxious, activated state. So then there's what they call the dismissive avoidant type. And they're the types that don't need relationships. They consider themselves very independent. They find that if someone needs reassurance, they tend to pull away. They're also what they call an insecure type. Like if you're not a secure type, you are an insecure type. And so with the avoidance, they'll get into relationships, but the second their partner gets upset or needs reassurance or is, jealous or insecure, they push them away. And for them, when someone's kind of clinging to them or upset, they need to get away from that person and have time to calm down. So if you're with a dismissive type, you need to give them the space. You can't go running after them like I used to try to, sort anything out. They have to have some time on their own to deactivate their nervous system. Whereas the anxious preoccupied types tend to need to connect to calm down. So the funny thing is they tend to be attracted to each other, the anxious preoccupied types and the dismissive types. So then the next type, or the last type, is what they call the fearful avoidant. And the fearful avoidant type, they're highly anxious in relationships and they're very avoidant of it. But, just like everyone else, they tend to like to be in relationships, but the second they get into them, they want to pull away. So they're the very kind of hot and cold, commitment phobics, come on very, very strong in the beginning because they're anxious and they want this person to accept them. But the second they feel like their partner's getting close, they pull away. So it's a drama trying to be with that type. And I know for me, I could flip into the anxious avoidant and the fearful avoidant type. So, yeah, the thing is with any of the insecure types, what you need to learn to do is be aware when you're getting triggered off and be clear about what you need when that happens. And, for the anxious preoccupied types, you need to realize that if you're not with a secure type, that person isn't going to give you the reassurance you need. So you need to learn to calm yourself down and self-soothe. And with the dismissive avoidant types, you need to realize that you need that space to pull away and be clear with your partner about that and say that's nothing to do with them, but that is everything to do with the fact that this is just how you're wired and this is what you need. And then with the fearful avoidant types, I think it's all really learning about what triggers you and what you can do to kind of sort it out. And also be really clear about how you are in a relationship and communicate that to your partner. And for me, once I learned that I was that anxious preoccupied type, I realized that what I needed was to be in a relationship with a secure type, ideally. So what I did was I got every guy I was interested in or went on a date with to take the test to figure out what type of attachment type they were. And I just kind of said, I'm writing an article about this. It's really interesting. A bit of self-awareness and insight. And they all took the test. And pretty much 9 people that I tested before I met my current partner all came up as some type of insecure type. And so what I'd say to that person is, I'm sorry, I can't date you because you are an insecure attachment type and so am I, and so therefore we're going to drive each other crazy. And then when I met my current partner, he was the most secure attachment type that I had ever tested, including all of my clients. And so I was quite happy to get into a relationship with him, and we've had an amazing relationship ever since, because I think whenever I get triggered off, he's very reassuring and he's there for me and he doesn't run away. And so obviously you can't just only date a secure type because that's only 50% of the population. But for me, being with a secure type has made me become a secure type. I have stopped getting anxious and activated, and I think also just that awareness has helped me learn to self-soothe and what I need when I get triggered. So you can become a secure type, but it takes some work, and it takes learning to deal with your emotions as it comes up. So hopefully you find this interesting and helpful. I'm going to do some more videos on each type, so please comment below if you have a certain type, or if you know that you're a certain type, or you want to find out more, or if you want more information about a certain type, and subscribe or like this video if you want to find out more. I'm going to add some links below with books that I have found really helpful to learn about this. And yeah, I think the more aware you are of why you behave the way you do or react the way you do, the easier it is to change it and talk about it and be aware. And I think that's what helps you have amazing relationships. So hope that helps, and have a great day. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the avoidant. What the fuck? That was fucking ridiculous. Okay,